Guitars, Cadillacs, and hillbilly music.
And I'm recording now. Welcome to the Nerd Herd Podcast. I'm Greg, and I'm joined again by Sarah, Eddie, and Amy. And guys, we're doing this by video now, and it's on YouTube. And can I get a drum roll?
Oh.
Very good. We have 9 subscribers on YouTube. And the last I checked, we got 66 views and 9 subscribers. So, but
Eddie, how many times did you view it?
8.
No, you didn't. You didn't watch it at all. Did you watch it, Ed? Be honest.
I watched the first part. I wouldn't have given you a compliment for such a fine job not editing, but throwing the production part of it together.
Okay. All right. It was painful, but it worked, and it's out there. So I'm happy with it. Hopefully other people will be happy with it too, but frankly, I don't care if you are.
It's like when you finish a paper.
Yes. It's like you finish a paper and you're glad it's good-ish, but you just want to turn it in.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good analogy. Yeah. The other good news is we actually have a Nerd Herd Podcast YouTube channel. So we'll have the link available on our Twitter accounts and any place else where I can plug it in so people can access it.
Wait, are you going to be the one who has to memorize that? Like,
there's no. That's like a long URL. There's
get cracking.
I need Sarah to make a cracked Bitly shortcut for us for the YouTube channel.
/ question mark.
It's a good thing I'm here with my Bitly knowledge. What would you do without me?
It'd be a very long URL to get people to our Slack channel. That's all I know. All right, so we've got the YouTube channel now. We talked about this last week. We've got the PodLuck coming up on April 18th. That's a Saturday. It looks like we're going to be going from morning to night. There's some details in the Evite, Amy, that you've published and been promoted on our Slack channel and on Twitter. Do we have a PodLuck update? I still don't know who besides us are going to be hosting this day-long event. Do we have other podcasters signed up, or have we voluntold them?
Well, the good news is a couple of our friends of the podcast who are also podcasters heard the podcast, so I rushed to actually formally invite them, and they agreed. So we've got Lauren Malhoit is now going to be on board with us representing, so yay. And Brian Gracely is essentially, I don't know if you guys know this, but Brian Gracely is an excellent barbecue specialist. He knows how to do the real deal, the overnight smokes, et cetera, et cetera. So he's like, am I basically going to be doing the cooking channel for an hour? And I was like, well, not until you mentioned it, but now that you did, I'm absolutely tuning into your segment, and I'm going to learn how to barbecue better. So Brian Gracely is going to be on with us. Lauren Malhoit's going to be on with us. She's doing a lot of dog training right now. Maybe we can get her to teach us how to train our dogs at home.
Or train us.
Right, or train us. Like, we can have lots of different things happening, because there's always that dog that eats somebody's plate during a picnic. So I feel like it'll be very in theme. We can have things that you really wish you knew how to do for a successful potluck. And Sarah, you still got the kugel?
Oh yeah, kugel. I gotta look up a recipe. The good news is I have my refrigerator. So currently I have no refrigerator, as my friends and co-hosts are aware, but maybe the general public doesn't know. But it's been a real struggle and a challenge. But the good news is that the delivery date has been set for the 16th of April. So I will be able to buy the items that are required in order to make the kugel on the 18th.
Do you need a refrigerator for the kugel? Is that a requirement?
It's not a shelf-stable food, Greg. This is not a jerky.
There are dairy elements in a kugel, so I'm going to need, absolutely.
I was getting ready to DIY you an icebox, Sarah.
Yeah, they'll build one.
I mean, it might come to that.
It'll plug into the USB port on your laptop. So it sounds like we're going to need an Excel spreadsheet, right? With a schedule and a time and slots and who's going to do what and when. So we'll start pulling that together. Is there any other updates for us, Amy, as we're pulling this together?
Don't be alarmed that there's not the how to join yet. We are holding on to that link. We've just had some internal high-level discussions. We are sorting out the technology and the platforms behind the how. If you're going to join us formally, if you're going to join us as more of a remote viewer, a casually interested party, we've got something for everybody, no matter your time zone or interest level.
We've got our best people on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't laid them off like Yelp has. So.
And we're also obviously trying to protect all of our privacy and not be Zoom bombed.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that real quick. Zoom bombing has become a thing, and anecdotally out in the wild, I heard, Amy, that you were Zoom bombed, or you were part of a conference that was Zoom bombed.
Yes, I had my first official Zoom bombing, and I can only liken it to all of the Simpsons fans out there. It is like Moe's Tavern. If you know that shtick where Bart calls Moe's Tavern and tries to get Moe to say something out loud. So these are the people you probably went to middle school with. If you went to a public middle school like I did and were on a bus, you absolutely know these people and the pranks. So there's nakedness, there's butts, there's somebody whose name is last name Hunt, first name Mike. That would be a Moe's Tavern example. And then he introduces himself over and over and over again on the call. So it's...
Was this a work Zoom? Like what?
Yeah, this was not a work Zoom. It was a work adjacent Zoom. I shall not. And there was a lot of learning that we all did in this moment. So I learned that you can set up a waiting room, which is awesome. It's essentially like a Zoom bouncer. You let people in if you know them, if there's known identifiers, and then if they misbehave, you can bounce them.
You've got that whack-a-mole stick that you can use with that. It's funny, this week, the Cloud Native Summit got Zoom bombed. Not on the live stream itself. They had breakout sessions that were part of it. And then they all of a sudden, they canceled the breakout sessions and said, hold on, we got Zoom bombed. This is before it was public. So then they scrambled. And of course, you would figure with something like the Cloud Native Summit, they'd have nerds that were coding like that, and they set up a quick Google registration form where people had to sign up with their email address to get invited into the breakout session. So they pulled it off. But I think it's because of their own knowledge and intimacy with the technology and be able to pivot very quickly. So the event continued. It was a very good event, by the way, for those of you that are interested in that sort of thing. And the video is still available on their YouTube channel for it. But yeah, so the Zoom bombing thing is very real. And I think we're considering that as we build this, because quite frankly, I'd rather see Brian Gracie's ribs than his butt.
Well, if it's pork butt, you might.
Oh,
true. Right. Ribs or butt, but only if it came from a pig.
yes.
I'll add that to the Evite promptly.
All right. Very good. So obviously people are running into this from a work perspective and even non-work environments. Zoom is scrambling to fix their technologies and other things. But have you guys looked at virtual concerts at all, especially, as people are looking at entertainment options, whether it's Netflix or other things? What's going on in the virtual concert space?
That part seems to be working because a lot of those are broadcast. So I think when it gets dicey is when it's interactive, but a lot of those are happening on Instagram, Facebook Live, YouTube. So yesterday I went to a Radiohead performed from a tent, and that was a YouTube one. And then a friend of mine has been doing Facebook Live concerts. A lot of musicians who are running the local music circuits that are the troubadour, modern troubadours, if you will, folks that weren't necessarily with a big label are doing these Facebook Live concerts. And maybe they'll ask for a Venmo or a PayPal. It's sort of a replacement for what you might see as a professional concert.
Is it more of an optional tip jar, or is there a charge to get in and see them?
All the ones I've been to have been either free or optional. But I did happen to see, so I did some research. I mentioned this on Twitter, and somebody's like, I wish there were more promotions of these things. So I went to see where it was getting promoted, and Live Nation actually had, and I'm going to go look and see if Ticketmaster does too. Live Nation has a whole list of concerts. They're treating it like normal. I don't think they're pay to play, but it makes me wonder what Live Nation and Ticketmaster will do, because they love to charge things.
Concert Mafia. Here's your $14 convenience fee for the URL.
Right. And we're going to charge extra for drinks. If you drink while watching this, we're going to set you up.
Well, I imagine
camera recognition.
Their business model has changed, right? I would think, because they weren't being physical concerts had to happen for them to be able to tack on a fee to this. I'm going to guess they're dipping their toes in the water and see if there's an avenue here for them to be able to charge for concerts, just like now we're seeing Trolls and other movies that are going to be streamed on the internet. And I haven't dug into this yet. I want no part of it. But apparently there's troll watch parties that are taking place. Yeah.
Troll, like
This reminds me of the WW or just boxing format, right? Where the on-demand live performance. Or it's not a performance, it's a match, but the people are willing to shell out for exclusive access to a live event. So like boxing, I think that maybe concerts will pivot that way too.
Well, I know MMA was trying to do that, and Dana White was trying to actually set up. There's rumors it was going to be an island in the Pacific somewhere, but it turned out it was out in the desert where he was going to have an arena, have these matches. But ESPN pulled the plug on that idea and said, no, we do not want to be doing live events right now. So probably for good reason, but.
Well, and there are some pros, because as everybody has now observed, singing is not my greatest talent. I can sing in my own home.
Come on now.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
I could sing in my own home without alienating anybody. So yay for social distancing. I really can't dance. So last night I'm listening to this concert. My buddy's he's honky tonk is kind of his sweet spot. So he's singing a honky tonk version of I'll Stop the World and Melt with You, which is honestly better maybe than the original, dare I say. And I'm dancing around and I'm singing along, and nobody is infected by my singing or my dancing or my germs.
I think we'll have to ask the animals, the house lions and the hounds, exactly where they weigh in on this.
You need to start TikToking this stuff, Amy. That's the fact that you're not. I feel like the rest of the world is missing out on this. And you mentioned about your singing talents. I kid you not. Somebody reached out to me and like, why is Amy doing the singing in the beginning? Wasn't Sarah the one that was in a choir and left the last podcast to go join a choir?
The whole point.
And I had no answer for that. I don't. So tell your one fan, Sarah.
Well, if I were to start singing on the podcast, then we would have to charge. So clearly,
that's fair. That's true. The difference between an
free for all.
Right, an amateur versus a professional. That seems right. But yeah, so I encourage, if you've got friends who are musicians or bands that you've been interested, go to their Twitters, their Facebooks, their Instagrams, go find out if they're doing this. You may be able to support them through Venmo or PayPal, or just keep their spirits up. It certainly lifted my spirits. A group of us, we got to make requests last night because smaller venue, right? So we're throwing requests out there. You just don't know what it's going to be like. He started off by going, and no, I won't do Freebird, because
that's everybody's request, isn't it?
So you really felt like you were at a small honky tonk club. It was awesome.
Will we be taking requests during our PodLuck for maybe if somebody's got a song that they want Amy to sing?
I'll do it.
I think we definitely need a segment of requesting Amy to do solos.
Well, no, we talked about karaoke, so I don't think I am the only one. I think they should be able to name their, those TikToks now of name your fighter, COVID-19 fighter, right? We should have to name our singer. So anybody who challenges this, I think all four of us are vulnerable.
I have an idea.
We must
here.
sing.
We'll let our audience also sing, but we get to pick the song randomly. We'll have a jar of songs, so we'll pick it out.
Oh,
well, like somebody, like one of Sarah's future Denmarkian husbands might be on there. Hopefully, they're on there.
Right, and they'll be wooed.
And they'll volunteer to sing, and we'll pull out the song that they have to sing. So
I just had a vision of me like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but like me with my Denmarkian husbands happily living in some cottage.
I'm sure we can find a background for Zoom for that, Sarah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. So your suitors can see what you look like in a Denmarkian habitat behind you.
Right. If she was
Just
natively.
a lot of teak furniture and spare clean lines.
Look, I just sit here and imagine our Danish friends looking around as they're listening to their like houses and apartments, like looking like what the fuck? Like I have a TV and a dresser and a table. Like where do these people think I live?
We'll find the very worst caricatures of Denmark.
Well, hopefully we'll have some Denmarkians join us, and then we can look into their homes on Zoom at the PodLuck.
Okay, that sounds like
Maybe a segment could be like, "Sell me on your home."
Oh, sure could.
Your potential Denmarkian husband.
This is just turned into the Bachelorette or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I hope there's some roses.
We'll have pictures of Sarah that they can crop and like put in their own house.
Into the theme. Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
You remember those books? They may not even exist anymore. I remember as a kid, they had these books that they had these like figures that were like semi-naked, and you would like kind of cut out clothes and like full tabs around.
The full tabs. Yes.
You know, we're like, where are you going with
I
this?
know. We're like,
No.
The fold out, the center fold.
It's the same sort of thing, but it'll be Sarah photoshopped in their different environments.
perfect.
Or maybe we don't want to encourage that. Now that I think about the bad things that could happen. Okay.
Oh yes, we'll pass.
Right. We don't
I
want
think we stick to karaoke.
We'll
the
stick
only
to
thing that
karaoke.
can happen there is bloody ears, and I
Let's
apologize.
just move on.
Just
Moving right along. Next topic. What's next, Greg?
obviously, we were talking about Zoom bombing and things, and this is a thing that we talked last week briefly about how the New York City schools were shifting away from Zoom and into Hangouts and stuff. But if we take a step back further than that, and what the implications of how our education system has changed, but also how work environments have changed and how higher education is adapting to it and how people are adapting to higher ed. You got to expect, again, so many elements of this crisis are going to change how we do things moving forward. And part of me is just wondering about the implications from an education perspective.
What I am hearing, actually, because I have some friends who work in higher ed, is that they are already shifting, because this is the time people would be getting into schools, and they are seeing people shift from maybe a 4-year choice to a 2-year choice, because either retooling, they can see a real opportunity. I think as people stay home and read on these platforms and see what jobs are available, they are thinking about jobs that they can get retooled for very quickly. And also 4-year schools are expensive. So 2 years is a safe, solid choice. So I think it could be really interesting just for us economically. And again, these are American institutions right now. I'll be curious what the implication is worldwide. But there had been such a step away from 2-year schools and sort of those real hard skills, and a lot of push toward 4-year schools as being the superior thing. I think it'll be interesting to see where this shakes out. Plus, as this drags on, I think people may be applying to those 2-year or immediate programs right now because they're home. Maybe they're already out of work, and this is an opportunity to get started right now and do something different.
Are these more like, I don't want to say certificate type things, but like, was there a distinction between just getting an associate's degree and maybe like a trade skill kind of thing that you noticed, or really was it just about less of a commitment to like a 4-year institution?
This is all pretty anecdotal right now. It'll be interesting to see what the data bears out and if it holds as things change. But I think these were true 2-year like community college technical schools, not just a certificate program instead of a 4-year
technical schools. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to make a comment. Like when Melissa, she's been teaching high schoolers for a while, and I ask her where your kids going after high school, and a lot of them are picking community college before they go to 4-year schools anyway, just because college has gotten so outrageously expensive. So I think that trend, like I kind of look at it as 4-year institutions continue to fleece the general public. I mean, it costs what, like now, like 30, 40 grand a year sometimes to go to school. Even I was looking up in-state tuition, and it's still a lot better, but it's 10x what we used to pay 20 years ago for in-state tuition.
Typically, it could be that this trend was already in place, and this will just be something that maybe I'll be curious what the data is. I won't be surprised at all if we see a real spike even further. Like maybe it was a slight crawl, but I think we're going to see tier institutions.
Stick.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know at my kids' school, at their high school, they're the local community college, Austin Community College, offers courses for credits to juniors and seniors anyway. So it's also a pathway. And I think a lot of community colleges do that now with public high schools. So it just feels like an easy transition to go from your senior year in high school to the local community college, continue that course credit, and then potentially transfer over to a state school, a 4-year program afterwards, but bring those cheaper credits with you, which a lot of people do at my kids' school.
I've heard historically that when we get into recessions, what now could be a depression, that the enrollment in colleges spikes up. And I heard a friend of mine in the industry just a month ago, before everything really kind of hit the fan, was telling me that schools are really struggling with getting enrollment up.
For 4-year schools?
Yes, for 4-year schools. And they were seeing two different trends. And that's usually because when the economy is doing better and there's lower unemployment, that's where the 4-year schools have problems.
Interesting.
Drawing interest. And the opposite happens during downtimes. But that doesn't mean, I certainly believe that as fewer people are working, there's an opportunity opens up for education. But to your point, Amy, that education may not be a 4-year degree, at least not right away. It may refer to 2-year programs. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's not clear to me. I just think so many things are going to change, and I think this is, a lot of people are going to be struggling with what the new reality looks like. Whether it's how do we go to the bar, how do we go to a restaurant, how do we fly to different meetings, how are conferences done? I still think the conference industry is going to be shattered coming out of this. I think once companies learn and figure out how to leverage virtual technologies in a way that's appealing to people, and I don't think it's appealing quite yet. I think people are still figuring it out. But if that gets figured out and becomes more adaptable and easier to do, I can see the equation where that's beneficial for companies and for conference organizers and people who are attending them, to where they don't have to get on a plane or be physically near them.
Think about it. The competition has changed. So what's appealing is not getting a virus, right? So that's kind of your first push over to say, yeah, you know what, this virtual thing's not that bad. But the competition for virtual conferences, there isn't anything right now. Now it has a leg up over the in-person thing, which we all cherish, like the get together for 3 days, network, chat amongst ourselves. People, we just kind of realized that reality has changed. So I think that the appeal really is kind of a forced one on us. And I think all across the board, we're seeing all of this change, even as China starts to open up and really reduce the restrictions on people in Wuhan and other places that had it. The shopping malls, they're open but empty. Like, people just they're avoiding it, right?
Again, it's going to change. We're going to have a new normal coming out of this. But one of the things we can always depend on is Google bungling their branding of their communication tools. And I'll read this.
So good at search and so challenged in this other area.
Yeah, when it comes to messaging and communication, it just seems like they can't stop stumbling over themselves. And I say this as a Google fanboy, and I'll read this verbatim. Google is rebranding its business-focused teleconferencing app Hangouts Meet to Google Meet, Hangouts Chat to Google Chat, but they're leaving Hangouts brand for consumers.
You lost me, but it's okay.
Well, I'll say it
That's
again.
a lot. That feels like some pricing and packaging grill.
Exactly. The meta point, like, they just continue to repackage, rebrand, and that's been Google's issue all along.
Well, and obviously there's a concern about them committing to technologies that they bring to market.
Sure.
I think that it appears to me like they're committed to try to do this right. The funny thing is, and we're recording this using Skype, and I think all of us had kind of stepped away from Skype for a while, and we came back to this setup. I was pleasantly surprised at how much Skype had improved from before. It seems more intuitive. There's some clever features to it. I don't think they've got it exactly right. But it's a more pleasant tool, a more pleasant interface than they've had in the past. And I used Hangouts. Hangouts, the consumer version of Hangouts, is actually degraded from what they had just a few years ago, where you had if you had a group conversation in Google Hangouts, you had director control where you could select the screen that was featured of all the people that were on it. You don't even have it now. They've dumbed it down to just being literally boxes on the screen that you can talk to. And maybe it's from an ease of use perspective that it was too complicated for people, but bad timing, I think, for them to dumb that down and then now introduce these new tools with Google Meet, Google Chat, and now Hangouts being the consumer thing. But I have been disappointed with Hangouts. I've been disappointed with Zoom too. I know we're probably going to use that as the basis for our platform for our PodLuck, but I'm not a big fan of Zoom, and not for all the technical reasons of privacy.
What don't you
issues.
like about it?
I don't like the fact that there's not a lot of, and maybe it's the version that you're using, right? Because I know there's different levels of Zoom, but the basic Zoom version that most people have, there's no level of director control as far as, and when somebody presents, now you get this box either across the top or this row of people that you're on the call with on the top, or it's on the side. It just seems like a clunky, it's visually just not appealing.
So as people talk, do their boxes take focus, and it's just really, it changes as people talk?
You can do a speaker view. So if you choose speaker view, then the person speaking gets the big window, and then you have a lot of smaller windows of people's faces. Or you can choose, what do they call it, Amy? Panel view or something like that, where you see everybody Brady Bunch style.
But if you're
that's if everyone's just talking. Greg's talking about when you're presenting, then you have kind of like a row of faces either on the top or on the side, depending on whether you've expanded the window to fit the full screen, or if you're, playing around with the format, the dimensions of it on your screen. But I don't know I guess that doesn't. I've been using Zoom for so long that maybe I've just kind of adapted to whatever, and I don't really pay attention to what's clunky about it anymore. I like it fine.
I've used WebEx, I've used Zoom, I've used, I think, everything but Blue Jean. So I've done Hangouts, I've done FaceTime, I've done Skype for business, I've done it all.
Hey, what's your expert opinion? Hold on. We need a drum roll here just of Amy's vetted this.
Yes.
Rank them best to worst.
I do think, again, it's a learning opportunity. I think Zoom is easily the friendliest. And the one kind of challenge with them is you have to stop sharing to let somebody else share. Whereas on WebEx, you could steal the ball from somebody, which sounds funny. And you think, oh, why is that a good thing? But I think that is the one thing, actually, you can forget accidentally that you're sharing, or somebody can say, you're rarely going to say, no, don't take the ball from me, or no, you can't share.
Hold on, Amy, can you make me presenter? No. Make me click over there and make me presenter.
Yes. So I think that, honestly, I know people slag on WebEx, and yes, I did work for Cisco for a while, but they worked hard on making some improvements, and some of the things that were very natural. And again, as a long time remote employee, I actually thought WebEx did an okay job. It drained your phone. The remote part of it was really complicated. Zoom's done that a little better. It's a little more lightweight. It's a little more user friendly, but as an enterprise tool, WebEx is not bad. The Hangouts is fine, but oh my God, like if you have ever used Google Hangouts in a work environment, we did for SolidFire, it was a running joke. Somebody would always end up double mic'd, and you guys know that echo thing that happens. They would not have their headphone in, or they would join audio. And it's like, Eddie's join. And
you did that really well.
Thank you. I've lived this. So that's my big slam on Hangouts. And then Skype for Business, are we even talking about that? Like, it's the most hideous tool I've ever used.
It's a completely
down.
different product from what we're using now, right?
Yeah, we're using consumer Skype.
Consumer Skype seems fine. Skype for Business is like, I actually hate you, and I've got somebody to pay for this, so watch me.
Do we think that's because Microsoft is just they're sort of holding back on doing anything with that technology because they're trying to get everything onto Teams, and eventually there won't be any Skype for Business? That's my theory.
You know what's funny is I've in the past week I've used Teams video more often, and when people hang up the call, you get that bloop, just like you would on Skype. So I wonder if there's some Skype technology integrated into Teams, if that's not the foundation, because that bloop noise sounds just like Skype. But I don't know.
That's my theory.
That makes a lot of sense. My only theory was that there was a salesperson that got double dog dared that they could not sell a piece of crap like to somebody, and they were like,
just watch
strip
me.
all the features and just watch me.
So you don't like Teams?
Oh, I haven't tried Teams yet. Skype for Business, I rank the lowest.
Oh, yeah.
Teams, I have had the least experience with in terms of video conferencing.
Wow. Well, this was an unexpected turn. We got Amy's ranking of video conferencing tools.
You just never know where the agenda is going to take us.
No. But we do have something on the agenda here. I'll just throw it out here. Apple and Google are partnering on COVID-19 contact tracing technology. I believe the idea here is I don't know if it goes as far as what they did in South Korea, because everything I hear anecdotally is that South Korea went way to the extreme where they were identifying individuals and could track individuals and where they were going and how they can enforce containment or lockdown or quarantine with those folks. This doesn't do that. I think this provides a general, now at least the charts that I've seen has been more generic concentrations of people that are staying in place versus people that are moving around a lot. And the irony is when you look at this, because right now Michigan is kind of being lambasted for the spread of the virus. But if you look at the Great Lakes in general, including Michigan, pretty much staying locked down. And then when you go to the rural areas, and I'm thinking Montana and the Dakotas, where the virus hasn't spread as badly, but you can see that they're moving around like it was nobody's business. Like it's a heat map. And so you see red in all these areas, which is kind of odd to see the heat map not being in the Great Lakes, but being in the Midwest and northern part of the country. Kind of interesting. I think this is a good idea. I think this gives people in the government ammunition as far as determining if this lockdown is working for people, and this quarantine is keeping people in place. But I don't know if there's anything functional beyond that, because if you don't know who's moving around or who's infected, I'm not quite sure I understand the value of this. And maybe I don't understand what this new partnership with Apple and Google is.
Well, that part's shocking alone, but yes.
Yeah. On The Verge, it's got basically like a diagram showing when your phones are nearby each other, they're going to exchange a little identifier beacon over Bluetooth, and I guess this identifier changes constantly. So it's not like you're tracked by one single number or somebody can come find you by it, but they exchange that and they say, hey, I was by this person and this person was by me. And then if you go take a test, you can basically enter in those test results in the app and share those out. So if you're positively diagnosed, you'll enter in that you tested positive, and then it'll inform all these people. So it's a very voluntary for the Apple and Google thing. It's very opt-in, and it's really about making sure that you're kind of taking care of the people that you came in contact with, right? If you test positive. I
wonder what the scale of adoption will even be. And I guess it's a little confusing. Like, I'm looking at the press release that you linked to in the show notes, Greg, that's on the Apple newsroom, and it really doesn't explain what this whole thing does.
It's kind of light on the details.
Contact tracing, like we're all supposed to know what contact tracing exactly is and what it means, and I don't really have a clear understanding of that. There's a lot of language like system level technology and APIs, and I mean it's very technical, and it's very it's hard to understand exactly how it works and functions in real life and what it solves.
Well, it also is just Eddie's explanation gave me, I tend to turn off my Bluetooth, and now I feel like my Bluetooth has been out mating with other Bluetooths or
Making Bluetooth babies.
Part of the problem with this, though, the way Ed described it, is that because it is opt-in, and it's going to be the most conscientious people that opt into this are probably not the people we need to worry about in the first place.
That's a true story. But I mean, I think what they're trying to do is stay away from, falling off the cliff with the GPS tracking and a government. I mean, they're kind of trying to get ahead of it and hoping that people will be responsible, I guess, much like Sweden's doing their hey, go intermingle everybody under 70. So I think they're hoping. But I agree. The next step is basically making these things kind of mandatory and tracking where people go. Contact tracing is extremely important because that's how the places that get Ebola are able to stem it so quickly is that they are really, really good at finding out. And by the way, the characteristics of a virus also change that, right? Like Ebola, it doesn't take as long for symptoms to occur, but they're more, the comorbidity is much higher, blah, blah, blah. But really the idea here is if you can do opt-in, hopefully those people that are responsible, are letting others know. The other thing too, Greg, is that probably the people who are responsible, we're trying to avoid those irresponsible people who don't give a flip if they're coming into contact with different people, because we know how people are. No. We're not going to Florida for spring break.
No. Not for a while. Not for a couple springs, at least. I think. Obviously, South Korea went to one extreme with this, and the ACLU and other organizations were putting up, stop signs very quickly when this was first talked about. But they started to loosen up a little bit, where they appreciate the need for being able to do tracking as long as it's anonymized and depersonalized. That seemed a little bit more palatable to those organizations. I think of myself as conscientious. If I was to get this, I would stay home and not talk to anybody and put myself in a room and lock myself down as the best I could. But I still probably wouldn't opt into this app.
I think the other thing that I don't know if this will change your mind or not, but the big issue right now with COVID is that you could have it for a week and potentially be infectious and not be able to tell, so contact tracing
you could have it. You could never have symptoms. That's the other thing we're learning.
So we
all might have had it and not known it.
Right. But we could go infect, grandpa at the nursing home and he keels over in 2 weeks. Right. So that's kind of why I think, those kinds of things are going to happen. But I think that's what it is, a reason to opt in, because the fact that, like Sarah said, you could be asymptomatic and, if you don't notice. And I think that's also why testing is so important, too. Without testing, what the fuck is the point of this application? There's really no point if people can't
Testing and follow up too, because the other thing we're hearing, again, it's all of it. You think about the other thing when they talk about Germany that we have talked about before as being the getting a little more handle on it. They were intervening at a certain point in the cycle, which is a lot of data analysis. It's a lot of tracking. It's a different healthcare setup to do a proactive intervention than a reactive intervention.
And to that point, if I can just jump in right there, Germany is testing 500,000 people a week, and here's the funny thing: people are still complaining in Germany that they're not doing enough. They want to see 200,000 a day. There's nothing funny about this, but I do think it's highly ironic and almost laughable that Germany is so aggressive with the testing versus the rest of the world, and they're still complaining. People in Germany are complaining that it's not enough.
Well, I think the other reason why they're complaining is because they're not necessarily a lot better off than anybody else is.
Yeah, they are.
In terms of, are they?
They're dramatically. The last I saw is their death rate was 2% or just below 2%, and the infection rate is much lower versus the population.
My bad, I wasn't aware of that.
No, they're doing very well staying in front of this. Now, as I read the German newspapers, like I do every day, as I've been reading these stories coming out of Germany, there's still it's really a for me, a very politically interesting thing about even where where the U.S. stands right now with this,
right.
and the countries that we respect or think that are doing better than this, the political upheaval that even in those countries that we think are doing well, there's still large amounts of debate.
You're doing a shit job. You guys suck.
Politics are politics anywhere. And that was the really wild part about this. I'm sorry.
At least. Well, I hope that Germany can come up with a word for trying not to lose your mind in quarantine after many days. It'll be like 17 syllables long, but nobody makes a new word like the Germans. They come up
sound
with
very angry.
Right. A very good long compound word for how to make yourself stay inside after all that time. I'm counting on them. Yeah.
So before we devolve into more of this Corona talk, I want to jump into Sarah's big app. Sarah, what's your big app of the week?
So this was actually
and by the way, this makes Sarah cringe every week when I say Sarah's big app.
Now they can see
it.
They can see it because it sounds like big ass.
Stop looking at my big app.
Yeah,
eyes up here, fella.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I don't know. I just hate the expression. Big app just really sounds gross to me, but we'll just keep going with it. It's like talking about poop maps. Got to bring it up for Amy every time. Anyway, our dear friend and loyal listener, Mike Stanley, who's very active in our Slack channel, recommended an app called Due, not D-O-O, but D-U-E.
I thought it was another poop map.
Oh, I'm not speaking to any of you.
Just going to get in as many references as I possibly can. It's just a reminder app, but I like it a lot more than the reminder app that comes with the native iOS, which is just kind of horrible. This is really great. You can, it's all the things that you would want it to be. It costs money. It costs a little more money than I was expecting it to. I think it was like $6.99 or something, but it's just elegant. It's nicely designed. I've plugged in all of my stuff. So now it reminds me to take my vitamins. It reminds me which exercise I'm supposed to be doing on which day. It reminds me to read. It reminds me to drink water. You can set it up in all of the many configurations that you would expect. And it will just continue to nag you. It reminds you to shower, wash your face, brush your teeth.
Does it tie into Water Llama?
It does tie in. There's no integration.
Oh, they need some
but I
APIs.
do at the end of the day, I have to check off that I've had my full gallon of water. So it's there. Yeah, it's good. It's a nice app.
Does it tie in with Outlook or other tools so it can pull? Okay, so I can't use it as my one stop for everything can plug into it.
Yeah, it's not integrated with anything. I mean, the app that I use for task management is Todoist, which I like a lot. And some people use OmniFocus. There's a bunch of other different task management apps.
We got 2 for 1 today on Sarah's big app.
Yeah, I'm just throwing another one in there. I use I really like productivity tools, and I'm always playing around with them. And Todoist is just the one that I keep coming back to. Sometimes I'll migrate over to something else for a while to see how I like it. But Todoist is my favorite. You can set it up in a kind of getting things done style if you want to, but has a lot of different ways also that you can configure it and you can add different projects to it. So I'll throw that in as a freebie. But Due is the one that I've been using for the last few days, and I like it a lot. So thanks to Mike Stanley.
Do we know if that's iOS and Android, or is that just iOS?
I never know. I'm never, ever going to tell you if it's Android. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself, Greg. That's way too much. You didn't pay me for that kind of research.
He'll put it on his iPad. It's all good.
I would like to point out that I'm the one who keeps getting suckered into being the secondary tester. So at least this one's easier because now I'm drinking like not a gallon of water, but tons of water. Thank you a lot, Water Llama. And I'm training for a 5K. So you suckers can sign up.
He's out there.
Oh, is this for the Krispy Kreme challenge?
Run keeper. I'm so proud.
Oh, I'm never running the Krispy Kreme challenge again. Are you kidding? That's the one where I found out it was 5 miles, 2 miles into it when I thought it was a 5K.
Oh.
Some language was used. It was not pretty. Aaron's out to this day. He turns to me and he goes, "So is this the first time you've ever run 5 miles?" And I was like, "Wow, how funny. Why do you ask? This is 5K. And he stopped. He kind of, his face, and he goes, "Yeah, Amy, this is 5 miles."
Oh.
And I threw an F-bomb real loud.
Now, you found out before you ate the Krispy Kreme donuts then?
Yeah, so I was 2 miles in, so 2.5 miles is when you eat them. So I was a half mile from donuts, but I thought I was only a mile from being done. It was not a great day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you using an app for that as you're training for it?
I am. I am using a big app recommended by one Sarabella who it'll be fun. It'll be great. I wanted to die, but my children were outrunning me and I couldn't take that anymore. Plus, I want to return to the soccer pitch in my full glory, like super fit and stunning them all. So it's a little bit of
dinosaur suit for containment.
Yes.
Hold on, you kind of glossed over something very important there. Sarah is giving you app advice on the side that she's not sharing on the podcast.
No, this was
I shared it when I did that whole collection of fitness apps. Greg, remember the big smorgasbord? So one of those fitness apps is the running app Runkeeper, which is that's been my running app all along. It's where I have all of my runs stored in there. I can track my pace and distance over time, and they have training modules embedded within the app that are actually really good. So I'm a few weeks ahead of. I've actually completed the 5K training program that's in Runkeeper, and I've moved on to 10K training. But Amy's just started on it, so I get to cheer and laugh from ahead of her on the trail.
I was just concerned that maybe you and Amy were going to do kind of like cut off from this podcast and start your own app podcast.
No,
never.
I'm like Mikey in the Life cereal commercials. I'm the idiot who's in there trying the cereal that Sarah's
So you were supposed to try out Second Life this week. Did you dive into it?
I thought that you were trying Second Life.
No, I did, but remember I said I can't get it because I'm limited to Chromebooks and iPads, and I thought you volunteered. Maybe I misheard you.
Maybe I misspoke, or maybe I forgot. But I will make the commitment now. Between my busy running schedule, which I'm documenting publicly as a form of humiliation and to publicly shame myself out of quitting, I will try Second Life. So I've said it. I'll put it in my reminder app now that I'm going to need.
I'm feeling slighted here, guys, because I did an app recommendation in our general channel today, and nobody noticed.
No,
yeah,
what were you talking?
It's okay. So if you're interested in helping out in the fight against that shall, which remain unnamed, the virus, there's something called folding at home, which has been around for like probably 10, 15, maybe 20 years. And researchers can submit projects to folding at home, but basically it puts your CPU or your graphics card. These days, your graphics card is going to give you a lot more processing power for these types of tasks, but it does protein folding. So it tries to figure out how viruses and diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and stuff like that interact with medicines, interact with each other, how cells fold and recreate with all the proteins. So you can go download folding at home and run it on your computer. I'll let people know that it's debatable, I would say. Like the projects out there for COVID right now are primarily graphics card related. So if you have any kids that are gamers in the house, it's something that's cool to run on there. If you're running the CPU based projects or workloads, and it just picks them automatically and gives them to you. You say you can use my CPU and choose for me how hard you want to run it. You can do light, medium, heavy, or use my graphics card. By default, I think it'll figure that stuff out on its own when you install it. But the CPU-based workloads, I'm a little also power conscious at the same time. And so my CPU sitting there grinding away, burning about $30 a month, not as much bang for your buck if you're letting your graphics card do the work for you. So folding at home, it's foldingathome.org, and I started doing this with a team of a group of security people. I'll just call them hackers that I've known for 25 years. We kind of jumped on the bandwagon, created a team, and people can go off and create their own team, or they can join our team, which is 258 829 and give us more points. We've risen from like, I don't know, 30,000 to within the top 1,700 teams. And there's people running this stuff on supercomputers. So like, yeah,
That's
it's,
awesome.
Yeah, Dell. I'm embarrassed that you mentioned this before me, Eddie, because this is a big push that Dell is doing as
cool.
well. Both with both around the Alienware brand, which is a Dell brand, and obviously those are gaming computers, but also they're working on supporting it at higher levels. So yeah, folding at home has been on my radar actually for a week or so now, and we're getting some content out there and helping to promote it in social so people learn about it and join.
I'd love to participate, but I don't think my Chromebooks are going to be much value.
Yeah, probably. And I wouldn't recommend somebody go buy cloud capacity, or if you work at a company with cloud, get fired for using stuff that you're not supposed to. So be responsible about installing it and using it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Hold responsibly.
Told responsible. That's right.
one quick thing I wanted to mention, and changing gears on everybody, going from something as wholesome as that, Ed, to I just want to. This is kind of a news alert. There's going to be another episode of the Tiger King that gets released on Sunday, which is kind of an after the show conversation with some of the stars of Tiger King. Have you guys seen this yet?
No, and I'm not going to.
No.
I refuse.
Greg, you're our trashy television watcher.
I'll take that title.
I'm not watching it because it's trash. I'm just not watching it because I'm super busy and watching other things.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm not watching it because I literally can't handle watching anything that involves animals in any kind of captivity. That's my Achilles heel. I can't handle it.
Well, if it's helpful, the people that made this, that produced this documentary, came at it from that perspective, Sarah. So part of the reason. I
mean, I'm glad that they did, but I can't watch it. Like, I can't. It's the worst.
So what are you watching?
Can't do it.
What's in your hit list this week?
I'm still watching BoJack Horseman. I'm still watching the same thing. You ask me every week. It's still the greatest thing on television.
How long is this going to go on for?
Season.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of content. I'm getting there. I'm almost done.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you know when I'm on to the next thing.
When the fridge finally arrives, will you be done with it?
Yeah.
I should be done by fridge.
Let's call Sarah and ask her if her refrigerator is running.
We know that Amy is watching concerts. Ed, what are you watching?
Yes.
Westworld.
The same.
And
you're the same way. You've been watching that for forever too.
Well, it's back on. I had to wait. You have to wait for 2 years. Like it's ridiculous the amount of time that you have to wait for some of these high budget things. I shouldn't complain. They like Stranger Things, same way. Like you wait a year to a year and a half, maybe 2. So I just got back into Westworld, and I was trying to think if I was watching. Oh, I have to admit this, and it's a very. Look, it's not as bad as Animals, but it's pretty trashy. And we turned on Before the 90 Days, a TLC reality show on people getting hooking up with people over the internet in foreign countries and finding brides elsewhere. Yeah.
Oh, that's something that could be valuable to us here as we're trying to do some matchmaking with Sarah over the internet.
Okay, so yeah, I planned this.
Is there a Denmark edition?
Yeah, a Danish. No, so yeah, it's a lot of people in the U.S. and it's the people who produce this. I believe. I hope I'm not misspeaking, but I think they are like the housewives of blah blah blah. Like they're kind of from a lineage of trash reality TV anyway. But my daughter and I, and now my wife is watching it with us. Like one lady is 50 something, and her boyfriend is a Nigerian rapper, and she went to Nigeria, and she's just losing her shit as she goes and visits Nigeria. And we're just like, oh, I can't believe this, and another person's being catfished. And there's some, like, I wanted to know more, so I got on Reddit or I Googled, and then subreddit pops up, and then you figure out, like, yeah, some of these people, like this lady who's being catfished this season, they are pretty sure, like they had some interviews with some people that she is trying to get cookbook publicity out of this because she has some cookbook. You're like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
But yeah, I'm getting sucked into Before the 90 Days, and It's just once a week. But Westworld and all the other normal non-trashy stuff.
Amy, can you remind me no more television review from Ed?
Yes, on it.
Very good. Well, I think on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up this week. Real quick, again, quiz around the table. Amy, how can people stalk us on Twitter?
At nerd_herd_pod. And Greg, how can people find us on YouTube?
Just Google Nerd Herd Podcast on YouTube.
F32899.
Just search for Nerd Herd Podcast on YouTube. But there is a link on our Twitter handle that Amy just shared. And Sarah, what's the shortcut for people to jump into the after party on Slack?
It is bit.ly/nerdherdpod.
And finally, Ed, take us home. How can people leave a 5-star review for us?
On iTunes. And then on top of that, go visit YouTube and give a thumbs up and a like and subscribe.
Wow, we got a bonus out of Eddie there. Okay, you know what? Next week I'll shake this up. I'll do one, and I'll move
I'm
around.
of this now. We're all going to get it wrong. We're going to be slash.
I know. Am I going to have to do Amy's? I might not.
Yes.
Too much.
You have to sing the Twitter handle next week.
Yes.
No, you'll have to pay me. We already established.
The Bitcoin is in the mail.
We'll put a Venmo link in the podcast. All right. Thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see everybody next week. And don't forget to register for the PodLuck, which is going to be April 18th. Don't forget it. Go sign up now. We're looking for you. And if you don't show up, we'll know who you are. So everybody have a good week.